today's story. The stench of stale cigarettes and cheap bourbon permeated Darren Stewart's private investigation office. A desk fan whirred ineffectively, pushing hot air around the cramped space. Darren watched as Bruce Buck's imposing figure filled the doorway, his tailored Italian suit worth more than 3 months of Darren's rent. Bruce's face remained impassive as he surveyed the shabby office, but his steel-gray eyes revealed the turmoil beneath. Darren had seen that look countless times. Wealthy clients whose perfectly manicured lives had begun to crack at the seams. "Mr. Buck," Darren said, rising from his worn leather chair. "Please have a seat." Bruce settled into the chair across from Darren's desk, his broad shoulders and athletic build making the furniture seem inadequate. Despite being in his early 50s, he carried himself with the intensity of a man half his age. His reputation in Dallas business circles was legendary, a former tech executive who transformed himself into a real estate mogul through ruthless determination and an uncanny ability to spot weakness in his competitors. "I need absolute discretion," Bruce began, his voice low and controlled. "What I'm about to share doesn't leave this room." Darren nodded. "Everything between us is confidential. You have my word." Bruce reached into his suit jacket and withdrew a photograph, sliding it across the cluttered desk. "My daughter Shelby came to me with concerns about her mother's behavior." Darren studied the image, a professional family portrait taken at what appeared to be a charity gala. Lorraine Buck stood out immediately, her sophisticated beauty amplified by a designer gown and perfectly styled blonde hair. Her arm was wrapped around their teenage daughter, both of them smiling brilliantly for the camera. "Mrs. Buck has been involved in several charitable foundations," Bruce continued, his jaw tightening. "But lately, her absences have become more frequent. The excuses about foundation work aren't adding up." "I'm familiar with your wife's philanthropy," Darren said, recalling numerous society page features about the Bucks' charitable giving. "The Children's Hospital Wing, the Literacy Foundation." "Yes," Bruce cut him off. "But this is different." Shelby overheard a phone conversation that disturbed her deeply. Something about videos and money. His knuckles whitened around the disposable coffee cup he'd brought in. "And it's not just Lorraine. My brothers have been acting strangely as well." Darren leaned forward. "How so?" "Rich and Salvador. They've both approached me recently asking for substantial loans. Unusually large amounts, even for our family." Bruce's expression darkened. "Rich has never asked me for money before. He runs our West Coast operations, and Salvador manages our international investments. They're both highly successful in their own right." "Have they explained why they need the money?" "Vague explanations about investment opportunities. But they seemed desperate." Bruce's eyes narrowed. "I've built my empire by reading people, Mr. Stewart." "Something isn't right." Darren pulled out a notepad. "Tell me about the phone conversation Shelby overheard." She said her mother was speaking in hushed tones, talking about keeping things private and maintaining silence. When Shelby asked about it, Lorraine became defensive, claimed it was about a surprise donation to a women's shelter. Bruce's lip curled slightly. "My daughter might be 16, but she's far from naive. She knows when she's being lied to." "And you've noticed other changes in your wife's behavior?" "Increased security on her phone, new email addresses, private meetings she won't discuss." Bruce's voice remained steady, but Darren detected an undercurrent of controlled rage. "I've built everything I have through careful observation and swift action when necessary. I don't appreciate being deceived, Mr. Stewart, especially not in my own home." Darren made several notes. "What exactly would you like me to investigate?" "Everything." Bruce stood, his presence filling the small office. "I want to know where she goes, who she meets, what she's hiding. If my brothers are involved, I want to know how and why." He reached into his jacket and withdrew an envelope. "This is your retainer. I'll double it when you bring me concrete information." Darren opened the envelope, his eyebrows rising slightly at the stack of $100 bills. "I'll need access to some basic information. Her regular schedule, vehicle details, known associates. My assistant will email you everything within the hour." Bruce moved toward the door, then paused. "One more thing, Mr. Stewart. If my wife is engaged in activities that could harm my family or our reputation," his voice dropped to a near whisper, I want irrefutable evidence. Something that will stand up in court. The threat behind Bruce's words was clear. This wasn't just about uncovering the truth. It was about gathering ammunition. I understand, Darren replied. I'll begin surveillance immediately. Bruce nodded once and left without another word. Darren sat back in his chair, studying the family photograph again. Lorraine Buck's smile seemed different now, less warm, more calculating. Whatever she was involved in, Darren had a feeling this case would become far more complex than a simple marital investigation. He opened his laptop and created a new case file. Years of experience had taught him that wealthy families rarely hired private investigators unless they already suspected something significant. Bruce Buck hadn't become one of Dallas's most powerful businessmen by being paranoid or overreacting. If he sensed something was wrong, there was usually fire behind the smoke. Darren's phone buzzed with an incoming email, the promised information from Bruce's assistant. He began scanning through Lorraine's daily routines, charity commitments, and social circle. On the surface, everything appeared normal for a wealthy socialite. But Bruce's words about his brothers kept echoing in Darren's mind. Rich and Salvador Buck were heavy hitters in their own right, managing billion-dollar portions of the family empire. What could make such successful men suddenly desperate for cash? He pulled up recent news articles about the Buck family. Photos from charity events showed Rich and Salvador attending with their wives, but Darren noticed subtle signs of strain in their expressions. He'd worked enough cases to know that wealthy families often harbored the darkest secrets. Money and power didn't prevent betrayal, they just raised the stakes. Bruce's parting threat lingered in the air like the stale cigarette smoke. Whatever Darren uncovered, he knew Bruce Buck wouldn't hesitate to use it. The man's reputation for ruthlessness in business hadn't come from nowhere. If his wife was betraying him, Darren almost felt sorry for what would likely happen to her. Almost. He'd seen too many families destroyed by secrets and lies to waste sympathy on the perpetrators. If Lorraine Buck was engaged in something nefarious enough to worry her daughter and destabilize her brothers-in-law, she made her own choices. And choices, as Darren had learned over years of investigating human nature's darker side, always had consequences. The surveillance footage on Darren's laptop screen told a story that even his cynical mind struggled to process. After 2 weeks of meticulous investigation, the web of deception he'd uncovered made his usual cases of marital infidelity seem quaint by comparison. He rewound the video again, watching as Lorraine Buck entered the luxury hotel through a side entrance, followed 20 minutes later by Rich Buck. The timestamp matched perfectly with the bank transfer he'd traced. $50,000 moved from an account in Rich's wife's name to an offshore holding company. But it wasn't just Rich. 3 days later, the same hotel, different room, this time with Salvador Buck. Another transfer, another encrypted message thread full of threats and desperate pleas. Darren had seen his share of affairs, but this was something far more sinister. Jesus Christ, he muttered, clicking through the evidence he'd compiled. The pieces had fallen into place over the past 48 hours, revealing a scheme so calculated it made his skin crawl. His phone buzzed. Bruce Buck's private number. Mr. Buck, Darren answered. I was about to call you. What have you found? Bruce's voice carried the same controlled tension from their first meeting. We need to meet. Not at my office. Darren glanced at his notes. This goes deeper than initial suspicions. The River Oaks Club. Private dining room 3. 1 hour. Bruce hung up without waiting for confirmation. Darren spent the next 45 minutes organizing his findings into a coherent presentation. The evidence was damning. Surveillance photos, financial records, intercepted messages, and video files that made him wish he could scrub his brain clean. The River Oaks Club reeked of old money and privilege. A uniformed attendant led Darren through marble hallways to a secluded dining room where Bruce Buck sat alone, a glass of scotch untouched before him. Show me, Bruce commanded as soon as the door closed. Darren placed his laptop on the table and began the presentation. Your wife has been meeting your brothers at various hotels over the past 3 months. But this isn't a simple affair. He pulled up the financial records. She's been blackmailing them. Bruce's expression remained stone-like as Darren played portions of the surveillance footage, showing Lorraine entering and leaving the hotels. The timestamps matched perfectly with the bank transfers. The videos? Bruce asked, his voice deadly quiet. Darren hesitated. She recorded everything. Used hidden cameras in the hotel rooms. The footage is explicit. She's been threatening to send it to their wives, their business partners, even their children. Bruce's hands clenched into fists, but his voice remained steady. How much? Rich has paid $50,000 so far. Salvador slightly more at $65,000. Darren paused. But that's not all. The total amount in the offshore account exceeds what your brothers have paid. Bruce's eyes narrowed. Explain. Your brother Owen transferred $30,000 2 weeks ago. And Wesley? Darren pulled up another set of records. Wesley has made multiple payments totaling $30,000 as well. Wesley? For the first time, Bruce's composure cracked slightly. My youngest brother? Darren nodded grimly. She discovered his illegal substance habit. Used it as leverage. I have footage of him meeting her at a private airstrip, handing over cash. She's been threatening to expose his addiction to the board of directors. Bruce stood abruptly, pacing the length of the private room. The total amount? Just over $175,000 so far. But she's demanding more. I intercepted messages to both Rich and Salvador demanding additional payments by the end of the month. The videos, where are they stored? Multiple cloud accounts, heavily encrypted. She's careful. Darren pulled up another screen. But she made one mistake. She kept copies on a hidden phone, along with text messages documenting the extortion. Bruce turned sharply. You have access to this phone? Not yet. But I know where it is. Darren met Bruce's gaze. Your daughter found it first. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Bruce's expression transformed from controlled anger to something far more dangerous. Shelby knows. She discovered the phone last week. That's why she's been asking questions about her mother's behavior. Darren hesitated. Mr. Buck, there's something else you should know. In the messages, your wife. She takes pleasure in it. She talks about enjoying the power she has over your brothers, about how stupid they all are for not seeing it sooner. Bruce's laugh was devoid of humor. My wife always did enjoy playing games. He returned to his seat, lifting the untouched scotch. Tell me about the videos. Every detail. For the next hour, Darren laid out the extent of Lorraine's scheme. The hidden cameras in hotel rooms, the carefully orchestrated meetings, the escalating demands for money. She'd started with Rich, using his position as Bruce's most trusted brother to gain leverage over the others. The psychological manipulation is extraordinary, Darren explained. She used each brother's weaknesses against them. Rich's fear of losing his wife's family's banking connections. Salvador's desperate need to maintain his image as the international success story. Owen's gambling debts that he's been hiding from his wife. And Wesley. He shook his head. Wesley's illegal substance addiction made him an easy target. Bruce absorbed every detail with frightening intensity, asking precise questions about dates, amounts, and specific threats. When Darren finished his presentation, the silence in the room was deafening. Your 20th anniversary party is in 3 days, Darren said finally. All your brothers will be there. Yes. Bruce's voice was thoughtful. 300 guests. The entire Dallas social circle watching. He stood, straightening his suit jacket. Send everything to my private email. Every photo, video, bank record, and message. I want it all. What are you planning to do? Bruce's smile was terrifying in its calmness. Ensure that justice is served, Mr. Stewart. My wife seems to enjoy playing games with my family. Perhaps it's time she learned who she's really playing against. Sir, given the sensitive nature of the videos, my brothers are victims. Bruce cut him off. They'll be protected. Lorraine, on the other hand. He moved toward the door. She chose to attack my family. That's a mistake she'll regret for the rest of her life. Darren watched Bruce leave, feeling a mixture of professional satisfaction and personal unease. He'd seen plenty of wealthy spouses take revenge on unfaithful partners, but something about Bruce Buck's controlled rage suggested this would be different. The man hadn't built an empire by showing mercy to his enemies. And now his wife had made herself his enemy. Shelby Buck sat in her father's home office, tears streaming down her alabaster face as she clutched a tissue between trembling fingers. The weight of her discovery pressed down on her 16-year-old shoulders like a physical burden. The hidden phone she'd found contained more than just evidence of betrayal. It revealed a calculated cruelty that had shattered her understanding of family. "I found Mom's secret phone," she whispered, her voice barely audible, behind the false bottom of her jewelry box in her private study. The things she said in those messages, "Dad, she was enjoying destroying our family. She called us all stupid for not seeing it sooner." Bruce sat beside his daughter on the leather sofa, his protective instincts warring with his need to understand every detail. "Tell me exactly what you saw, sweetheart. Leave nothing out." "There were text messages to Uncle Rich," Shelby continued, her voice shaking. "She threatened to send the videos to Aunt Maxine's father. He's on the board of their bank. And messages to Uncle Salvador about ruining his reputation in Europe." She paused, fighting back a fresh wave of tears. "She even threatened to send things to Wesley's children." Bruce's jaw clenched, but his voice remained gentle. "Did you watch any of the videos?" "No." Shelby recoiled at the thought. "I saw the thumbnails when I opened the gallery, but I closed it immediately. I didn't want to see that. But the messages, Dad. The way she talked about them, like they were toys she could break whenever she wanted. You did the right thing coming to me." Bruce's arm tightened around his daughter's shoulders. "This isn't something you should have to handle alone. Dad, we have to stop her." Shelby's blue eyes, so like her father's, filled with fresh tears. "Aunt Maxine is pregnant. If she finds out about Uncle Rich now, the stress could harm the baby. And Uncle Wesley's kids, they're so young. They absolutely worship him." Bruce's expression hardened as he contemplated their upcoming anniversary party. In 3 days, 300 guests would fill their lakeside mansion, celebrating a marriage that had become a weapon against his family. His brothers would be there, carrying their shame in silence, while their wives remained oblivious to the sword hanging over their heads. "I'm scared," Shelby admitted, her voice small. "Mom's different now. When I asked her about the charity work last week, the way she looked at me, it was like she was amused by my concern. Like everything was just a game to her." Bruce stood, moving to the window that overlooked their vast estate. "Your mother has made choices that will have consequences. I promise you, I won't let her destroy this family. How can you stop her? She has those videos, all that evidence." "I've built my empire from nothing," Bruce reminded her, his voice taking on a steely edge. "I've protected our family through recessions, hostile takeovers, and countless attempts to tear us down. Your mother thinks she's clever, playing these games with your uncles. She's about to learn what real power looks like." Shelby watched her father, recognizing the expression that had preceded some of his most ruthless business victories. She'd grown up hearing stories about how he'd handled threats to their family's interests, always legally, always through proper channels, but with a devastating thoroughness that had made the Buck name both feared and respected in Dallas business circles. "The party," she said suddenly. "Everyone will be there. All our friends, business partners, the entire family." "Yes." Bruce's voice held a note of grim satisfaction. "Your mother has worked for weeks to ensure this celebration will be memorable. She's always loved being the center of attention. But the videos, we can't let anyone see them. It would destroy Uncle Rich's marriage, Uncle Salvador's reputation." "The videos won't become public," Bruce assured her. "But your mother's true nature will be exposed. Sometimes, Shelby, the only way to stop a predator is to turn their own tactics against them." A knock interrupted them. Marie, their housekeeper of 15 years, entered with obvious hesitation. "I'm sorry, Mr. Buck, but Mrs. Buck is asking for Miss Shelby. The final dress fitting for the party." "Tell her Shelby's doing her homework," Bruce commanded. "She'll try on the dress tomorrow." After Marie left, Shelby turned to her father. "I don't know if I can pretend everything's normal. Every time I look at her now, knowing what she's doing to our family." "You don't have to pretend for long." Bruce's voice carried absolute certainty. "I've spent my life studying people, learning to recognize and neutralize threats before they can strike. Your mother thinks she's being clever, but she's made a fatal mistake." "What mistake?" "She forgot who I am." Bruce's smile was devoid of warmth. She spent 20 years watching me destroy anyone who threatened what's mine, and somehow she convinced herself she was immune, that her position as my wife would protect her from consequences. Shelby shivered slightly at her father's tone. She'd seen this side of him before, usually when dealing with business rivals who'd crossed a line. There was no mercy in him now, no room for forgiveness. "Dad?" she asked quietly. "What about all her charity work? The foundation?" "Your mother's humanitarian image was always part of her game." Bruce's voice dripped with contempt. "She used it to build connections, gain trust, create the perfect cover for her true nature. But masks eventually slip, and when they do—" He turned back to his daughter, his expression softening slightly. "You should go work on your college applications. Let me handle this. The party will be exactly what your mother wanted. Unforgettable." Bruce's voice carried absolute certainty. "By the time it's over, everyone will see her for what she really is." Shelby stood, smoothing her skirt with trembling hands. "Uncle Owen called yesterday. He sounded desperate." "I know." Bruce's jaw tightened. "Your mother's been increasing the pressure on all of them. She thinks she has them trapped, too afraid of scandal to fight back. But she doesn't know you're involved now." "No." Bruce's smile was predatory. "She doesn't. And that's her biggest mistake." As Shelby moved toward the door, she heard her father pick up his phone. His voice carried that special tone she learned meant someone was about to discover why crossing Bruce Buck was considered business suicide in Dallas. "Jackie? I need you at the house. Now. We have work to do." Shelby closed the door quietly, her heart racing. In 3 days, their family's carefully constructed facade would shatter. But as she thought about her mother's cruel messages, the way she tormented her uncles while maintaining her perfect socialite smile, Shelby felt no regret. She was her father's daughter after all. And in the Buck family, betrayal had always carried the highest price. Bruce Buck's measured footsteps echoed through the private corridor of the River Oaks Club as he approached the secluded meeting room. Jackie Compton, his head of security, waited inside with the detailed plans that would ensure tomorrow night's anniversary celebration became memorable for reasons Lorraine never anticipated. The ex-military specialist stood as Bruce entered, her posture remaining parade ground perfect even in civilian clothes. 2 decades of handling security for the Buck family's operations had honed her instincts for threat assessment and elimination. She'd overseen everything from corporate takeovers to personal security details. But this operation required a special kind of precision. "Everything's in place," Jackie reported without preamble. She activated a tablet, displaying the mansion's security layout. "I've personally verified the system upgrades. Every screen, every projector in the main hall is under our control. The moment you give the signal, we own the narrative." Bruce studied the schematics, noting the strategic placement of displays. "Show me the surveillance coverage." Jackie switched to a different view. "We've got everything locked down. Additional cameras in all key areas, especially the study where Salvador usually takes his private calls. The existing security system is running on a separate circuit. Lorraine won't detect any changes if she checks." "The technical team?" "Handpicked. Everyone's been vetted and signed ironclad NDAs. They think we're preparing a surprise anniversary tribute." Jackie's lips curved slightly. "Technically, they're not wrong." Bruce moved to the wet bar, pouring himself 2 fingers of scotch. "Walk me through the sequence. At your signal, every display simultaneously activates. We start with the financial evidence, bank transfers, cryptocurrency trails, the offshore accounts. Then the text messages, showing the escalation of demands." Jackie pulled up another screen. "We've edited the video footage carefully. Enough to prove the blackmail without exposing your brother's dignity." "And the police?" "Detective Ida Arias has reviewed everything. She's one of the few honest cops in the Financial Crimes Division, and she owes you after that mess with her brother's construction company. She's confirmed the evidence meets all legal requirements for prosecution." Bruce nodded slowly. "Her team will be positioned throughout the crowd, dressed as catering staff. The moment the evidence plays, they move. Clean, professional, minimum scene." Jackie paused. "Are you sure about doing this publicly?" "We could handle it more discreetly." Bruce's expression hardened. Lorraine chose to make this public the moment she threatened my family. She enjoys wielding power? Let's show her what real power looks like. The guest list includes every major player in Dallas society, Jackie reminded him. Business partners, political connections? Good. Bruce's voice carried absolute certainty. Let them all witness what happens when someone betrays the Buck family. It will save me having to make the point again in the future. Jackie pulled up another screen. Your brother's security details have been briefed. They'll ensure their wives are protected from any extreme reactions. Maxine's condition? Rich's security team includes a medical professional disguised as a personal assistant. She'll monitor for any signs of distress. Jackie's expression softened slightly. We won't let anything happen to the baby. Bruce finished his scotch. And Wesley? I've arranged for a discreet addiction specialist to be present. Once everything breaks, they'll ensure he gets immediate support. Jackie hesitated. Sir, about the illegal substance evidence. Will remain private. Bruce cut her off. The public narrative focuses on the financial crimes and basic blackmail. My youngest brother's specific situation stays within the family. Understood. Jackie switched to another display. We've prepared multiple contingencies for Lorraine's potential reactions. If she attempts to access her cloud storage or contact anyone, she won't have the chance. Bruce's smile was predatory. I know my wife, Jackie. In 20 years of marriage, I've never seen her lose control of a situation. Tomorrow night, she'll learn how that feels. Your daughter's role. Shelby knows exactly what to do. Pride mixed with ruthlessness in Bruce's voice. She's stronger than Lorraine ever imagined. The perfect trigger for our trap. Jackie nodded, respecting the cold calculation in his strategy. Using Shelby's innocent image to launch the exposure would make Lorraine's schemes appear even more monstrous to their social circle. The audiovisual equipment has been thoroughly tested, she continued. Every screen, every speaker is synchronized. The impact will be significant. It needs to be. Bruce moved to study the mansion's layout again. Lorraine thrives on manipulation, on making people dance to her tune while maintaining her perfect image. Tomorrow night, that image shatters completely. The society pages will be brutal. They'll focus on her crimes, not my brother's personal lives. Bruce's tone brooked no argument. I've ensured the right journalists receive the right information at the right moment. The narrative is already prepared. Jackie began shutting down the displays. Final security sweep begins at dawn. We'll have teams monitoring every entrance, every possible escape route. She won't be able to run. She won't try. Bruce's certainty was absolute. Lorraine's ego won't let her believe she's lost control until it's too late. That's always been her weakness. She thinks she's the smartest person in every room. The evidence is overwhelming, Jackie agreed. Detective Arias says it's one of the cleanest cases she's ever seen. Multiple counts of extortion, financial fraud, illegal recording. Lorraine was thorough in documenting her crimes. Bruce's laugh held no humor. She kept evidence to maintain control over my brothers. She never considered it might be used against her. What about the foundation board? They'll be at the party. They've been quietly briefed about potential financial irregularities. They'll distance themselves quickly once everything breaks. Bruce checked his watch. Is there anything else? Just one thing. Jackie met his gaze directly. Are you absolutely certain about this level of public exposure? The Buck name will emerge stronger. Bruce's voice hardened. Everyone will see that we deal with threats swiftly and absolutely, even when they come from within. The family's reputation for unity remains intact, while Lorraine's true nature is exposed. Jackie recognized the tone. She'd heard it before major corporate takeovers, when Bruce Buck moved to crush opponents who dared to challenge his empire. There would be no mercy, no last-minute reprieve. I'll do a final check on all systems tonight, she confirmed. By this time tomorrow, justice will be served. Bruce moved toward the door, then paused. Jackie, thank you for your loyalty over the years. The family doesn't forget those who stand with us. She nodded, understanding the deeper message. In the Buck family, loyalty was everything. And those who betrayed that loyalty learned the cost the hard way. Get some rest, Bruce advised. Tomorrow will be an eventful day. As the door closed behind him, Jackie couldn't help but feel a twinge of sympathy for Lorraine Buck. The woman had played a dangerous game, thinking her position as Bruce's wife made her untouchable. She was about to discover just how wrong she'd been. The anniversary celebration transformed the Buck mansion into a glittering showcase of wealth and influence. Crystal chandeliers threw rainbow reflections across the marble floors as Dallas's elite circulated through the grand hall. String quartet music provided a sophisticated backdrop to the carefully orchestrated evening. Bruce Buck moved through the crowd with practiced ease, accepting congratulations and engaging in diplomatic small talk while his awareness remained focused on every detail. He noted Salvador's slight tremor when raising his champagne glass, the tension in Rich's jaw as he guided his pregnant wife to their seats, the way Wesley's eyes darted toward the bar before remembering his role in tonight's plan. His phone vibrated. A message from Jackie confirming Lorraine had left the main hall. Bruce activated the security feed, watching his wife make her way toward his study. Right on schedule, Salvador excused himself from a conversation with investors and followed the same path. "Everything all right, Dad?" Shelby appeared at his elbow, looking elegant beyond her 16 years in a deep blue gown. "Perfect timing," Bruce replied softly. "Are you ready?" Shelby's chin lifted slightly, her mother's beauty underlaid with her father's steel. "I won't let you down." Bruce squeezed her shoulder gently before moving to position himself near the grand staircase. On his phone screen, he watched Lorraine corner Salvador in the study. The audio feed captured every word with crystal clarity. "You're late with the payment." Lorraine's voice dripped with contempt. "I don't appreciate having to chase you down at my own anniversary party. I need more time." Salvador's attempt at firmness crumbled under her mocking laugh. "The European markets are volatile right now. Your wife's family owns half the banking institutions in the state." Lorraine cut him off. "You'll find a way to pay, or everyone will know what a deviant you really are." "These demands are impossible," Salvador protested. "The amount you're asking is nothing compared to what exposure would cost you." Lorraine moved closer, her designer gown rustling softly. "Imagine the headlines: respected international financier caught in compromising positions. Your children seeing those videos, learning what their father really is." Bruce's hand tightened around his phone as he watched his wife systematically destroy his brother's last shred of dignity. The time for mercy had passed. "You can't keep doing this," Salvador whispered. "Bruce will figure it out eventually." "Bruce." Lorraine laughed again. "My husband's too focused on his precious empire to see what's happening under his nose. By the time he realizes anything's wrong, it will be far too late." On cue, Shelby's voice cut through the chamber music and polite conversation like a knife. "Tell them the truth, Mom." The grand hall fell silent as every head turned toward the teenager standing at the foot of the staircase. Lorraine emerged from the study, her perfect composure slipping for the first time as she registered her daughter's expression. "Shelby, darling, what are you?" "Tell everyone how you've been blackmailing Dad's brothers." Shelby's voice carried clearly through the stunned silence. "Tell them about the videos you made and how you threatened to destroy their families." Lorraine froze on the grand staircase, her champagne glass slipping from suddenly nerveless fingers. The crash of crystal coincided perfectly with the first images appearing on the massive screens throughout the hall. Bank statements, transfer records, offshore accounts. "Don't forget to mention the $175,000 you extorted from my brothers." Bruce's voice cut through the growing murmurs. "The police are particularly interested in that part." Lorraine's head snapped toward him, her eyes widening as understanding dawned. Before she could speak, Detective Ida Arias emerged from the crowd, flanked by officers who had shed their catering disguises. "Lorraine Buck." The detective's voice carried official authority. "You're under arrest for extortion, fraud, and distribution of illegal materials." "Bruce." Lorraine's voice held a note he'd never heard before: fear. "You don't understand." "I understand perfectly." Bruce's tone could have frozen flame. "You threatened my family. Did you really think I wouldn't protect them? That your position as my wife would shield you from consequences?" The screen shifted to display text messages, each one documenting Lorraine's escalating demands and cruel manipulation. The assembled guests drew back from her, as if her presence had become toxic. "You can't prove anything," Lorraine attempted to rally, her socialite mask slipping back into place. "These allegations are ridiculous. Your hidden phone provided everything we needed." Bruce cut her off. "Every threat, every demand, every video you used to torture my brothers. Did you enjoy it, Lorraine? Playing with people's lives like they were pieces on a chessboard?" "Sir," Detective Arias stepped forward, handcuffs ready. "We need to take her into custody now." Lorraine's gaze darted around the room, taking in the horrified expressions of her social circle, the grim satisfaction on her husband's face, the tears in her daughter's eyes. For the first time in their marriage, Bruce saw real panic break through her carefully maintained facade. "Bruce, please," she whispered. "We can discuss this privately, like you discuss things privately with my brothers." Bruce's voice carried across the silent room. "No more privacy, Lorraine. No more secrets. No more games. You wanted to destroy my family? Congratulations. You destroyed yourself instead." As the officers moved to arrest her, Lorraine's composure finally shattered completely. "You planned this," she hissed. "Used our anniversary party to humiliate me. I learned from the best." Bruce's smile held Arctic coldness. "You taught me so much about manipulation over our 20 years together. Consider this my anniversary gift, showing you what a real power play looks like." The guests parted like water as Detective Arias led Lorraine toward the exit. Bruce caught Salvador's eye, seeing relief warring with shame in his brother's expression. Rich held Maxine close, whispering reassurances as she processed the shocking scene. Wesley stood alone, his hands steady for the first time in months. "Dad." Shelby's voice trembled slightly. Bruce pulled his daughter close, shielding her from the curious stares of their guests. She had played her part perfectly, using her mother's own theatrical flair against her. The innocence in her accusation had made Lorraine's crimes seem even more monstrous. "It's over," he assured her quietly. "She can't hurt anyone anymore." As the police cars pulled away from the mansion, Bruce felt no remorse for the public nature of Lorraine's downfall. She had chosen to attack his family through shame and humiliation. It was only fitting that her own destruction come the same way. The grand hall buzzed with shocked whispers as Dallas society struggled to process the dramatic scene they had just witnessed. Bruce Buck stood at the center of the storm, his commanding presence unchanged by the exposure of his wife's crimes. If anything, he seemed to have grown more formidable in the aftermath of Lorraine's arrest. "Mr. Buck," Preston McKinley, chairman of the foundation board, approached cautiously. "I want to assure you that we had no knowledge of Mrs. Buck's activities." "Of course not." Bruce's tone remained perfectly controlled. "The foundation's work will continue without interruption. My family's commitment to our charitable causes remains absolute." The underlying message was clear. The Buck family's influence and power would not be diminished by this scandal. If anything, their swift and decisive handling of internal corruption would enhance their reputation for integrity. Rich approached, guiding Maxine to a comfortable seat. His wife's face was pale, but she maintained remarkable composure given the circumstances. "Bruce," he began, his voice thick with emotion. "I should have told you. We'll discuss everything tomorrow." Bruce cut him off smoothly. "Tonight, focus on taking care of your wife and child." Salvador remained in the study, his phone clutched in trembling hands as he attempted to explain things to his wife Pat. Bruce nodded to Jackie, who immediately dispatched a security team to provide support and ensure no reporters attempted to exploit the vulnerable moment. Wesley caught Bruce's eye from across the room, then glanced toward the library. Bruce excused himself from the ongoing damage control to join his youngest brother in the more private setting. "She knew about the illegal substance," Wesley said without preamble. "Used it to—" "I'm so sorry, Bruce. I should have come to you when it started." "You're going to rehab," Bruce replied, his tone leaving no room for argument. "The family will handle everything. Your recovery is the only priority now." Wesley's shoulders slumped in relief. He had expected judgment, perhaps even exile from the family business. Instead, his oldest brother was offering protection and support, asking only honesty and commitment to healing in return. The detective, Wesley, hesitated. She has evidence about the illegal substance? That information remains sealed, Bruce assured him. The prosecution focuses solely on the financial crimes and blackmail. Your personal situation stays private. A discreet knock preceded Jackie's entrance. Sir, Detective Arias would like a moment before they transport Mrs. Buck to booking. Bruce straightened his tie, an unconscious gesture that transformed him from concerned brother back into the ruthless business titan Dallas society knew and feared. Wesley, join the others. Jackie will introduce you to Dr. Matthews. He'll be handling your initial treatment plan. The detective waited in Bruce's private study, her professional demeanor masking any reaction to the evening's dramatic events. Mr. Buck, we're ready to transport her to central booking. She's requesting a moment with you first. Absolutely not, Jackie interjected. Any conversation could be used to challenge the evidence later. Let me speak with her, Bruce decided, straightening his cuffs. Record everything, detective. I want no questions about this interaction. Detective Arias nodded. We'll use the library. Officers are already in position. Bruce followed her through the mansion's hushed corridors. Guests had begun departing, their excited whispers carrying fragments of speculation and shock. The scandal would dominate Dallas society gossip for months, but Bruce had ensured the narrative would focus solely on Lorraine's crimes. Lorraine sat in a wing chair, her designer gown incongruous against the handcuffs securing her wrists. Her makeup remained perfect, but the carefully constructed mask of sophistication had cracked irreparably. Come to gloat, she asked, attempting to summon her usual aristocratic disdain. You did this to yourself, Bruce replied simply. Every choice, every threat, every moment of cruelty toward my family. Those were your decisions, your precious family. Lorraine's lip curled. Do you know what your brothers did? The things they were willing to do to keep their secrets. I know exactly what happened. Bruce's voice could have cut diamond. I know how you manipulated them, recorded them, used their shame for profit. Did you think I wouldn't protect them? That your position as my wife made you untouchable? They were so easy to control, she continued, as if he hadn't spoken. Rich with his banking connections, Salvador desperate to maintain his international reputation. Owen's gambling, Wesley's little illegal substance habit. She leaned forward. Your brothers aren't the pillars of virtue you pretend they are. They're family, Bruce stated flatly. You never understood that concept, did you? Family protects its own, stands together against threats, even threats from within. How long? Lorraine's composure cracked slightly. How long have you known? Long enough to ensure every piece of evidence was properly documented. Long enough to watch you destroy yourself with your own arrogance. Bruce's smile held no warmth. You taught me so much about patience over our 20 years together, darling. Detective Arias stepped forward. Time to go, Mrs. Buck. The videos, Lorraine attempted one final threat. Once they become public, will remain sealed as evidence. Bruce cut her off. Your leverage is gone, Lorraine. Your offshore accounts are frozen. Your social standing is destroyed. The only thing left is calculating how many years you'll serve. You bastard, she whispered, real hatred finally breaking through. You planned all of this. Used our anniversary party to humiliate me in front of everyone. I learned from the best. Bruce adjusted his tie. You spent years playing games with people's lives, enjoying their fear and desperation. How does it feel being on the other side? Mr. Buck, Detective Arias interrupted gently. We need to move her now. Bruce stepped back, watching as the officers escorted his wife toward her new reality. 20 years of marriage ended in a single evening of calculated justice. He felt no remorse, no hesitation about the public nature of her downfall. She had chosen to attack his family through shame and humiliation. It was only fitting that her own destruction come the same way. Jackie appeared at his elbow. The press is gathering outside. We're controlling the narrative, but let them speculate, Bruce instructed. The evidence speaks for itself. Make sure my brothers and their families exit through the secure garage. No photographs, no statements. He returned to the grand hall, where Shelby stood surrounded by supportive friends. His daughter's strength throughout the ordeal filled him with fierce pride. She had faced her mother's true nature with courage, helping to spring the trap that would protect their family. "Dad?" she asked quietly as he approached. "Is it really over?" Bruce hugged her close, shielding her from the curious stares of remaining guests. "Yes, sweetheart. She can't hurt anyone anymore." The Buck family had survived countless threats over the years, hostile takeovers, market crashes, political pressures. But this internal betrayal had posed a unique danger, attempting to destroy them from within. Bruce had eliminated that threat with the same ruthless efficiency he applied to all challenges to his empire. As the last guest departed and his brothers gathered in his private study for an emergency family meeting, Bruce felt no doubt about his actions. In business and in family, reputation was everything. Lorraine had forgotten that fundamental truth, believing her position would protect her from consequences. She had learned otherwise, in the most public and devastating way possible. And anyone else considering moving against the Buck family would remember this night, when Bruce Buck demonstrated exactly how he dealt with those who betrayed his trust. The family would heal, their bonds strengthened by surviving this crisis together. But Lorraine Buck's careful world of power games and manipulation had shattered beyond repair, leaving her to face the full weight of justice she brought upon herself. The morning headlines screamed across every Dallas newspaper and social media platform. "Socialite arrested. Buck family blackmail scandal rocks Dallas elite." Bruce Buck studied each article from behind his mahogany desk, satisfied with how his media team had controlled the narrative. Every story focused on Lorraine's financial crimes, keeping his brother's personal situations carefully obscured. Jeannie Coyle, the Buck family's lead attorney, spread additional documents across his desk. Her reputation for ruthless efficiency matched Bruce's own, which made her perfect for handling this crisis. "The videos are sealed as evidence," she reported, her voice crisp and businesslike. "I've obtained court orders preventing any unauthorized release or distribution. Your brother's privacy is protected." The Foundation Board already issued a statement distancing themselves from Mrs. Buck's unauthorized activities. Jeannie's lip curled slightly. "They're falling over themselves to prove they had no knowledge of the financial improprieties." Bruce nodded, scrolling through more coverage on his tablet. "And the society pages?" Painting her as a ruthless predator who betrayed not just her family, but the entire philanthropic community. Jeannie adjusted her wire-rimmed glasses. "The narrative positions the Buck family as victims who took decisive action once the crimes were discovered. Your public image remains intact, possibly even enhanced by the swift response to internal corruption." A knock interrupted them. Jackie entered, her expression concerned. "Sir, Rich just called. Maxine's gone into labor." Bruce was on his feet instantly. "Early? The stress of last night?" Jackie didn't need to finish. "They're at Dallas Memorial. The medical team's been briefed about the situation. Have security clear a path through the media circus outside the hospital," Bruce ordered. "No photographs, no statements. The family needs privacy." "Already done. And Salvador's wife Pat has requested a meeting." Bruce exchanged glances with Jeannie. "Arrange it here, not at their house. We control the environment." As Jackie left, Jeannie pulled out another document. "The DA's office is pushing for maximum sentences on all charges. The evidence is overwhelming. The videos, financial records, encrypted messages. Plus, they love the publicity of taking down a corrupt socialite." "Good." Bruce's voice hardened. "I want her to serve every possible day." The preliminary hearing's set for next week. Given the high-profile nature, they'll expedite everything. Jeannie paused. "Have you considered visiting her?"
No.
Bruce's response was immediate and final. She chose her path. Now she can walk it alone. His phone buzzed, Wesley's private number. Speaking of paths, he said to Jeannie, "Arrange transportation to the Clearview Rehabilitation Center. My brother needs discreet admission today. The cocaine situation stays private. Wesley's recovery will be handled as a family matter." Bruce's tone brooked no argument. "Have Dr. Matthews meet him there. I want the best possible care." Jeannie made notes on her tablet. Pat's arrival is confirmed for 2 o'clock. How do you want to handle potential divorce proceedings? One crisis at a time. Bruce moved to the window overlooking the manicured grounds of his estate. Salvador needs to focus on rebuilding his marriage before making any decisions, and Rich's banking connections? Already secured. I spoke with Maxine's father this morning. The family understands Rich was a victim of extortion. Their support remains solid. Bruce's expression showed grim satisfaction. Lorraine miscalculated there. She thought exposing Rich would destroy those relationships. Instead, she had forced them to confront their weaknesses and emerge stronger. Ready for the celebration? Bruce asked Shelby, who stood surrounded by her cousins. Just one more thing, she replied, pulling a small folder from beneath her graduation gown. The foundation board approved my proposal. We're expanding the youth support programs to 3 more cities. Bruce took the folder, noting the detailed plans his daughter had developed. At 16, she already showed the same strategic thinking that had built their empire. But where Lorraine had used those skills for destruction, Shelby chose to create something meaningful. Your mother never understood the true source of power, Bruce said quietly as they walked to their cars. She thought it came from causing pain, from exploiting weakness, and you showed her differently, Shelby finished. That real strength comes from protecting what matters. The family gathered at Bruce's estate, the celebration moving to the same grand hall where Lorraine's downfall had begun 1 year ago. But the atmosphere couldn't have been more different. Where there had been tension and secrets, now there was open conversation and genuine connection. Wesley played with his children, no longer haunted by the shame of addiction. Rich and Salvador discussed expanding their business ventures together, their old confidence fully restored. Owen shared stories about the Foundation's latest successes, his own demons finally under control. Bruce watched it all from slight distance, satisfaction flowing through him. He had built his empire by recognizing threats and eliminating them without mercy. Lorraine had been just another threat, more personal perhaps, but dealt with just as thoroughly. You know what she said to me? Shelby asked, joining him. In her last message before everything happened, she said we were all weak, too blinded by love and loyalty to see clearly. And what do you think now? I think she never understood that those things, love, loyalty, family, they're not weaknesses at all. Shelby's voice held absolute certainty. They're what make us strong enough to survive anything, even betrayal. Bruce hugged his daughter close, proud of the wisdom she had gained through adversity. The Buck family had faced countless threats over the years, but none had struck so close to home as Lorraine's calculated cruelty. That they had not just survived, but emerged stronger was testament to the principles Bruce had always lived by. Protect what matters. Strike without mercy. Never forgive betrayal. As the celebration continued around them, Bruce felt no regret for the ruthlessness with which he destroyed his wife's carefully constructed world. She had chosen to attack his family, to exploit their trust for her own amusement. The consequences of that choice would fill her next 20 years. The Buck family would continue to grow, to build, to protect what mattered most. And if anyone else ever thought to test their unity, Lorraine's fate served as a stark reminder. Some questions were better left unasked, and some wounds could only be healed by ruthlessly excising the infection that caused them. She gave them reason to rally around him. Jeannie gathered her papers. I'll head to the courthouse, make sure everything's properly filed. The media will be watching for any procedural missteps we can exploit. After she left, Bruce allowed himself a moment to contemplate how thoroughly his wife's carefully constructed world had imploded. In less than 24 hours, Lorraine had gone from respected socialite to disgraced criminal. Her power plays and manipulations had crumbled in the face of his methodical destruction of her entire existence. His intercom buzzed. Sir, his assistant's voice was apologetic. Miss Shelby's school called. Some reporters tried to approach her. Have Jackie double her security detail, Bruce commanded. No one gets near my daughter without clearance. He paused. And call Dr. Reynolds. Shelby might benefit from speaking with someone about all this. The next few hours brought a steady stream of updates. Rich called from the hospital. Maxine's condition was stabilizing, the medical team optimistic. Wesley had arrived safely at Clearview, Beginning the intake process with Dr. Matthews. Owen finally returned from his business trip, shocked by the developments he'd missed. "I should have been here," Owen said during their brief phone conversation. "Help you handle it." "You were exactly where you needed to be," Bruce assured him, maintaining normal business operations while we dealt with the situation. He didn't mention that keeping Owen away had been deliberate. His third brother's gambling issues needed to stay buried. Pat arrived precisely at 2, her elegant appearance betraying no sign of the emotional turmoil she must be feeling. Bruce had always respected Salvador's wife for her strength and dignity. Those qualities would be tested now. "Salvador told me everything," she said without preamble as Bruce ushered her into his study. "The videos, the blackmail, all of it." "The videos are sealed," Bruce replied quietly. "They'll never become public." Pat's hands trembled slightly as she adjusted her pearl necklace. "He was protecting our children. From scandal, from shame. He was a victim, Pat. We all were." Bruce kept his voice gentle but firm. "Lorraine systematically targeted this family's vulnerabilities. She used love and loyalty as weapons. The Foundation Board wants me to take over her responsibilities," Pat said after a moment. "Continue the charitable work without the taint of her involvement." Bruce nodded approvingly. "A good choice. You've always had their respect. This gives Salvador time to focus on your marriage, on healing. I've insisted on counseling." Pat met his gaze directly. "Both individual and couples therapy. Non-negotiable. Whatever you need. The family will cover all expenses, ensure complete privacy." Bruce studied his sister-in-law's composed features. "Salvador's lucky to have you, Pat. Lesser women would have walked away." "We built this life together," she replied simply. "I won't let her destroy that." As Pat left, Bruce received word that Owen had arrived at the hospital to support Rich and Maxine. His family was coming together, closing ranks against the outsider who had tried to tear them apart. Lorraine had never understood that fundamental truth about the Bucks. They protected their own, no matter what. His phone buzzed with a message from Detective Arias. "Bail denied. Full remand until trial." Good. Let Lorraine experience powerlessness firsthand. Let her sit in a cell, stripped of her designer clothes and social status, contemplating the complete dismantling of her carefully crafted world. Bruce turned his attention to the stack of documents requiring his signature. Damage control continued on multiple fronts: legal filings, media statements, business arrangements. But he had no doubt about the eventual outcome. He hadn't built his empire by leaving things to chance. Lorraine had played her games, thinking herself cleverer than everyone around her. She'd forgotten the most important lesson about power. Those who truly wielded it didn't need to announce its presence. They simply acted, decisively and without mercy, when the moment demanded. 6 months passed, transforming the scandal from breaking news to cautionary whispers in Dallas society. Bruce sat in the sterile prison visiting room, studying the woman who had once been his wife. Lorraine's designer wardrobe had been replaced by an orange jumpsuit, her perfectly styled hair now limp and dull. But her eyes still held that calculating gleam he remembered. Why? The question had haunted him these past months, not from emotional attachment, but from strategic curiosity. What had made her risk everything? "Because I could," she replied, attempting to summon her old aristocratic disdain. "You were all so wrapped up in your perfect lives, your business empires. It was too easy." Bruce observed her practiced pose, the way she tried to maintain her old power even in chains. "You had everything: wealth, status, respect. You threw it all away for what? The pleasure of causing pain?" "I had nothing," Lorraine spat, her mask slipping. "A pretty ornament on your arm, wheeled out for charity events and social functions. You never saw me as an equal." "I saw you exactly as you were," Bruce corrected coldly. "A skilled performer playing whatever role served your purposes. The devoted wife, the passionate philanthropist, the caring sister-in-law. All masks hiding your true nature. And what nature is that? A predator who mistakes cruelty for power." Bruce's voice carried absolute certainty. "You enjoyed watching my brothers squirm, savored their fear and desperation. But you forgot something important. Enlighten me." Lorraine's sarcasm couldn't quite hide her bitterness. Family protects its own, Bruce stated flatly, even from threats within. You spent 20 years watching me destroy anyone who threatened what was mine. Did you really think being my wife made you immune? Lorraine's fingers twisted in her lap. How are they all doing? Your precious brothers? Healing. Growing stronger. Bruce allowed himself a small smile. You tried to destroy them, Lorraine. Instead, you gave them reason to rebuild. And Shelby? My own daughter turned against me. She chose truth over lies. Loyalty over betrayal. Pride colored Bruce's voice. She's thriving at school, stronger for having seen your true nature exposed. She's 16, Lorraine protested. She needs her mother. She needs protection from you. Bruce cut her off. I've filed for sole custody. Given your current accommodation, I don't anticipate any challenges. The word struck home. Lorraine's carefully maintained composure cracked further. You planned all of it, didn't you? Waited until you had everything in position. Used our anniversary party for maximum impact. I learned from the best. Bruce stood, adjusting his Italian silk tie. You taught me so much about patience, about waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Consider it my parting gift, showing you what real power looks like. They'll appeal the sentence. Lorraine attempted one final show of defiance. 20 years is excessive for financial crimes, but not for the psychological torture of multiple victims, Bruce reminded her. The DA's office is very motivated to make an example of you. Society figures who abuse trust, exploit family connections. They don't fare well in our justice system. Lorraine's mask finally shattered completely. I hate you, she whispered, real emotion breaking through at last. No, Bruce corrected her gently. You hate that I beat you at your own game. That all your clever manipulations amounted to nothing in the end. He moved toward the door. Goodbye, Lorraine. Enjoy the next 2 decades contemplating your choices. As he left the prison, Bruce felt no emotional turmoil, no lingering attachment to the woman he'd spent 20 years beside. She had been a threat to his family, nothing more. And he dealt with threats the same way he always had, thoroughly and without mercy. His phone buzzed with updates. Wesley was 6 months sober, working with his NA sponsor and rebuilding relationships with his children. Rich and Maxine's baby girl was thriving, their marriage stronger for having weathered the crisis together. Salvador and Pat had emerged from couples counseling with renewed commitment to each other. Even Owen had found stability, his gambling addiction addressed through discreet therapy and financial controls. The brothers met weekly now, their bonds reinforced by surviving Lorraine's attempts to destroy them. Bruce's driver navigated through Dallas traffic as he reviewed corporate reports on his tablet. Business continued to expand, the Buck family's reputation actually enhanced by their swift handling of internal corruption. The foundation's charitable work flourished under Pat's leadership. Its mission expanded to include addiction recovery and victim support services. Lorraine had thought herself so clever, playing her little power games with people's lives. She'd never understood that real power didn't need to announce itself. It simply acted when necessary, systematically eliminating threats to what mattered most. Family, legacy, control. The 3 pillars upon which Bruce had built his empire remained unshaken. If anything, they stood stronger now, reinforced by the crisis they'd overcome together. 1 year after the infamous anniversary party that had shattered Lorraine Buck's carefully constructed world, the Buck family gathered again under very different circumstances. The high school auditorium buzzed with anticipation as proud parents and relatives awaited the graduation ceremony. Bruce sat in the front row, flanked by his brothers and their wives. Wesley, 6 months sober and clear-eyed, beamed as his own children waved from a few rows back. Rich kept one protective arm around Maxine, their infant daughter sleeping peacefully in her carrier. Salvador and Pat sat close together, their renewed commitment evident in small gestures and shared glances. Owen chatted quietly with his wife Sarah, their relationship strengthened by honest conversations about his past struggles. The brothers had emerged from Lorraine's attempts to destroy them not just intact, but more unified than ever. Shelby's name rang out across the auditorium. Bruce felt pride surge through him as his daughter crossed the stage with confidence and grace, accepting her honors diploma. Her poise spoke of someone who had faced adversity and emerged stronger. "She's remarkable," Rich whispered. After everything that happened, Bruce nodded, watching Shelby return to her seat. His daughter hadn't just survived her mother's betrayal. She had transformed that pain into purpose, starting a support group for children from broken homes. The foundation had expanded its youth programs based on her insights and experiences. After the ceremony, as families mingled and took photos, Detective Ida Arias approached their group. Her presence at family gatherings had become almost routine over the past year as the legal proceedings continued. "Just heard from the DA," she reported quietly. "Lorraine's appeals were denied. She'll serve the full 20 years. Good." Bruce's voice held no emotion. "She made her choices. Now she faces the consequences." "Dad." Shelby hurried over, still in her graduation gown, accepting hugs from her uncles and aunts. Her smile faltered slightly at the detective's presence. "Is everything okay?" "Everything's perfect, sweetheart." Bruce pulled his daughter close. "We're celebrating your achievements today. Nothing else matters." The family moved toward the exit, planning to continue the celebration at Bruce's estate. As they walked, Detective Arias fell into step beside him. "You orchestrated all of it, didn't you?" she asked thoughtfully. "Waited until you had everything in place before letting Shelby expose her?" Bruce simply smiled, watching his family ahead of him. Wesley deep in conversation with his sponsor, who had become almost an honorary buck over the past year. Rich and Salvador comparing notes on their latest business venture, their confidence fully restored. Owen discussing expansion plans for the Foundation's addiction recovery programs with Pat. Some questions were better left unanswered, and some wounds could only be healed by ruthlessly excising the infection that caused them. Lorraine had been that infection, threatening to poison everything Bruce had built. The celebration moved to Bruce's estate, to the same grand hall where Lorraine's downfall had begun 1 year ago. But the atmosphere couldn't have been more different. Where there had been tension and secrets, now there was open conversation and genuine connection. Wesley played with his children, no longer haunted by the shame of addiction. Rich and Salvador discussed expanding their business ventures together, their old confidence fully restored. Owen shared stories about the Foundation's latest successes, his own demons finally under control. "The Foundation's new programs are making real difference," Shelby was telling her aunts, her face animated. "Especially the support services for families affected by addiction and fraud. We're helping people rebuild their lives." Bruce watched it all from a slight distance, satisfaction flowing through him. He had built his empire by recognizing threats and eliminating them without mercy. Lorraine had been just another threat, more personal perhaps, but dealt with just as thoroughly. "You know what she said to me?" Shelby asked, joining him. "In her last message before everything happened? She said we were all weak, too blinded by love and loyalty to see clearly. And what do you think now?" "I think she never understood that those things, love, loyalty, family, they're not weaknesses at all." Shelby's voice held absolute certainty. "They're what make us strong enough to survive anything, even betrayal." Bruce hugged his daughter close, proud of the wisdom she had gained through adversity. The Buck family had faced countless threats over the years, but none had struck so close to home as Lorraine's calculated cruelty. That they had not just survived, but emerged stronger was testament to the principles Bruce had always lived by. Protect what matters. Strike without mercy. Never forgive betrayal. The celebration continued around them, the grand hall filled with the sounds of family and genuine connection. Bruce felt no regret for the ruthlessness with which he destroyed his wife's carefully constructed world. She had chosen to attack his family, to exploit their trust for her own amusement. The consequences of that choice would fill her next 20 years. As he watched his brothers with their families, Bruce knew that the Buck legacy would continue to grow stronger. The Foundation's expanded mission, Shelby's support programs, the renewed bonds between the brothers, all of it built from the ashes of Lorraine's attempts to destroy them. And if anyone else ever thought to test their unity, Lorraine's fate served as a stark reminder. In the Buck family, betrayal carried the highest price. Some wounds could only be healed by ruthlessly excising the infection that caused them, no matter how close to home that infection might be. Epilogue. 10 years later. The Dallas State Women's Correctional Facility hadn't changed much in the decades since Lorraine Buck first entered its gates. The same gray walls, the same regulated routines, the same stripped-down existence that had systematically dismantled her carefully constructed world of power and privilege. Prisoner 247813, the guard announced, leading her to the visitation room. You have 30 minutes. Lorraine's designer clothes and perfect makeup had long since been replaced by prison-issued garments and the harsh lines that incarceration had carved into her once beautiful face. 10 years of watching her empire crumble from behind bars had taken their toll. Detective Ida Arias sat waiting, her professional demeanor unchanged by the passing years. She'd moved up the ranks to chief of financial crimes, her handling of the Buck family scandal having cemented her reputation for thoroughness. Still keeping tabs on me, detective? Lorraine's attempt at her old aristocratic tone fell flat. Or is it chief now? Just following up on some loose ends. Arias opened a folder. Your latest appeal was denied. The evidence remains solid. Bruce's influence, no doubt. Bitterness crept into Lorraine's voice. He always did know how to work the system. Your ex-husband had nothing to do with this decision. Arias's tone remained professional. The videos you recorded, the financial trails, the documented blackmail, it all speaks for itself. And how is the mighty Buck family? Lorraine couldn't quite hide her desperate hunger for information. Still pretending to be pillars of society? The Buck Foundation received the Governor's Award for Excellence in Community Service last month. Arias allowed herself a small smile. Their addiction recovery programs have become a national model. Wesley Buck spoke at the ceremony, 5 years sober now. He runs the outreach division. Lorraine's fingers twisted in her lap. And Shelby? Graduated Harvard Law last spring. She's clerking for a federal judge, specializing in victims' rights. The support group she started in high school has expanded to 30 cities. Arias paused. She's engaged to Senator Mitchell's son. The wedding's next summer. Each word struck like a physical blow. Lorraine had missed her daughter's college graduation, would miss her wedding. The carefully maintained walls of indifference cracked slightly. Bruce remarried, Arias continued, watching the impact of her words. Caroline Winters, the prosecutor who handled your first appeal. They met during the proceedings. Quite the power couple in Dallas circles. Of course he did. Lorraine's laugh held no humor. Always thinking strategically. The brothers are thriving too. Rich's eldest just started at Yale Business School. Salvador and Pat renewed their vows last year, 20th anniversary. Owen's Gambling Recovery Foundation merged with the main Buck philanthropic operations. They're opening a new treatment center next month. Arias closed her folder. You tried to destroy them, Mrs. Buck. Instead, you made them stronger. Why are you really here? Lorraine demanded. To rub my nose in their success? Professional curiosity. Arias met her gaze directly. 10 years later, was it worth it? The power games, the blackmail, destroying your own family for what? Entertainment? Lorraine's mask slipped completely. I had nothing else, she whispered. Trophy wife, charity figurehead, always in Bruce's shadow. The videos, the control over his precious brothers, that was mine. And now? Now I have less than nothing. Lorraine gestured at her surroundings. 10 more years in here while they all move forward without me. Actions have consequences, Mrs. Buck. Arias stood. Especially when you target people as powerful as your ex-husband. After the detective left, Lorraine returned to her cell, where a copy of the Dallas Business Journal lay on her bunk. The cover story featured Bruce Buck, looking distinguished with touches of gray at his temples, standing with his new wife at a charity gala. The headline read, Buck Empire Expands. New international ventures signal continued growth. She traced his image with one finger, remembering the cold satisfaction in his eyes the night of their anniversary party. He had orchestrated her destruction with the same ruthless efficiency he applied to all threats to his family. She had thought herself clever, playing her little games with his brothers' lives. She'd forgotten who she was really playing against. Across town, In the penthouse office of Buck Enterprises, Bruce reviewed the latest foundation reports with Shelby. His daughter had grown into a formidable woman, combining her mother's beauty with his strategic mind, but none of Lorraine's cruelty. The new Victim Support Center opens next quarter, Shelby explained, highlighting key points in the presentation. We're partnering with 3 major hospitals to provide comprehensive services. Wesley's programs are showing excellent results, Bruce noted. 87% recovery rate in the first year. He's amazing with the patients. Shelby's smile held pride. They trust him because he's been there. Even Owen's gambling support groups are at capacity. Bruce studied his daughter's engagement ring, a tasteful diamond that Thomas Mitchell had wisely shown him before proposing. The merger of the Buck and Mitchell families would create interesting political opportunities, but that hadn't influenced his approval. He'd seen the genuine connection between the young couple, the shared values and ambitions. His phone buzzed, a message from Caroline about dinner with Rich and Maxine. Their youngest had just been accepted to Phillips Academy, continuing the family's educational legacy. Salvador would join them with Pat, fresh from their second honeymoon. Detective Arias visited Mom today, Shelby said quietly. Standard follow-up. Bruce nodded, unsurprised. The detective had kept tabs on Lorraine over the years, ensuring the woman who had tried to destroy the Buck family remained safely contained. She has 10 years left to serve, he replied simply. Her choices, her consequences. The Foundation's prison outreach program, Shelby began, excludes her facility. Bruce's tone brooked no argument. Some betrayals can't be forgiven, sweetheart. You know that. Shelby touched the locket at her throat, a graduation gift from her father, containing a photo of them at her law school ceremony. She had learned valuable lessons from her mother's downfall, about power and consequence, loyalty and betrayal. The Mitchell Foundation wants to collaborate on international expansion. She changed subject smoothly. Tom thinks we can double our impact in developing countries. Bruce smiled approvingly. His daughter had inherited his gift for turning every situation to advantage. The Buck Mitchell wedding would create more than just social connections. It would open new opportunities for their philanthropic empire. A knock interrupted them. Caroline entered, elegant in a designer's suit, carrying blueprints for the new treatment center. Bruce watched his wife spread the plans across his desk, her prosecutor's mind analyzing every detail for potential issues. He had chosen well in Caroline. She understood power, its uses and responsibilities. More importantly, she respected family loyalty, having grown up in a close-knit clan herself. Their marriage merged complementary strengths, creating a partnership Lorraine could never have offered. The brothers are gathering at the club tonight, Caroline reminded him. Wesley's receiving his 5-year sobriety chip. Bruce nodded, pride mixing with satisfaction. His family had emerged from Lorraine's attempts to destroy them stronger and more unified. Where she had tried to exploit their weaknesses, they had instead confronted and overcome them. Rich had faced his fears about losing status, finding strength in Maxine's unwavering support. Salvador and Pat had rebuilt their marriage on honesty, their bond deeper for surviving the crisis. Owen had finally admitted his gambling addiction, using that experience to help others. And Wesley had transformed his shame into purpose, helping hundreds of other addicts find recovery. Later that evening, as Bruce watched Wesley accept his sobriety chip to enthusiastic applause from the gathered family, he felt no regret about Lorraine's fate. She had chosen to attack what he valued most, using intimate knowledge of his brother's struggles as weapons. He had responded as he always did to threats against his family, swiftly, thoroughly, and without mercy. That she had once been his wife had made no difference. In the Buck family, betrayal carried the highest price. The brothers found their seats at Bruce's table, their wives and children filling the private dining room with warmth and conversation. Rich's oldest son discussed Yale's business program with Salvador's daughter, who was considering applying next year. Owen's twins challenged Wesley's children to a game of pool in the adjacent room. Hard to believe it's been 10 years, Rich commented quietly. Sometimes it feels like another lifetime. Because it was, Bruce replied. We're stronger now, all of us. Lorraine's games forced us to confront things we've been avoiding. To heal. The Foundation's work? Salvador began. is our legacy, Bruce finished. Taking what we learned from our struggles and using it to help others. That's real power, not the kind of cheap control Lorraine craved. The conversation turned to business ventures and family plans. Bruce sat back, observing the empire he'd protected and expanded. His brothers had reclaimed their confidence, their children were thriving, and the Buck name commanded more respect than ever. Lorraine, in her prison cell, had lost everything: status, freedom, family, future. Her power games had won her 2 decades of isolation, while those she tried to destroy moved forward without her. As Bruce raised a toast to Wesley's achievement, he knew his ex-wife would spend another decade watching helplessly as the Buck family legacy grew stronger. It was, he reflected, a fitting punishment for someone who had mistaken cruelty for power. Some betrayals couldn't be forgiven. Some wounds could only be healed by ruthlessly excising the infection that caused them. And some questions, like whether he had orchestrated every detail of Lorraine's downfall, were better left unanswered. The Buck family had survived, thrived, and grown stronger. In the end, that was all that mattered. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.